Hi, I'm going to call this meeting of the BPAC for April 28th, 2026. I now ask for a moment of silence. Does anyone want to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm going to call for roll call. Oh, sorry, Vicky, roll call.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Martinez,
Here.
Ewing,
Here.
Shu,
Here.
Kaiser Grant,
Here.
Chambers,
Here.
Maras,
Here.
ex officio Thomas,
Here.
Watkins,
Here.
Sandoval,
Here.
Harmelin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Members of the public who wish to speak on any matter not listed on the agenda may speak during this portion of the meeting and will be allotted 3 minutes. State law prohibits the Planning Commission from acting at this meeting on any matter raised during the public comment period. Members of the public who wish to speak on a matter that is listed on the agenda will be called upon to speak during discussion of that item. Members of the public were able to leave a voicemail or email prior to 1 p.m. for this item as well. Vicky, do we have any requests to speak?
We do. We would like to call up Joe Bruscia.
I'm Joe Bruscia. I live at 1959 El Portal Drive, directly across from the Black Rascal Creek entrance between Parsons and McKee. I've been retired for over 20 years. I used to be the director of instruction at Merced Union High School District. Now I spend my time fixing sprinkler heads and replacing dead plants on the bike path as well as my own house. Safely designed bike paths are not safe unless the bikers that ride them ride safely. Evidently in Merced, bike riders have never been given any safety information on bike safety and etiquette. And if they have, maybe they just don't care and don't listen to it. I and many of our neighbors walk the bike path daily. I walk and I also ride in the afternoon. On many days, we talk about our little walk before we all go home. And one of the things that we talk about is almost getting hit by a bicycle rider. I and many of our neighbors, when we walk, it's kind of scary because we get no warning whatsoever. And I'm talking about bike riders that are adults, children. I'm talking about electric, oh my God, the electric assisted bikes, scooters, and skaters. Kids that are going to UC Merced and they're kind of late for class, they go by our bike path, and boy, do they go fast, trying to get there at class on time. What I'm going to recommend is something I did a lot of research on after the neighbors and I started discussing that. And that is teaching our kids something to say simple. all they have to do is say, on my left, on your left. Maybe if they have a horn, give it a toot or a ring of the bell. Most of them don't have a bell or a horn on that. And we say, well, how do
10-second
you,
warning.
what's that?
10-second warning.
Oh, so how do you communicate with this? Well, you've got to get down into the schools and teach a little lesson or two.
Time
Has
has
anybody
elapsed.
gone down?
Thank you.
Am I off 3 minutes already?
Yeah, I'm
Oh
afraid so.
my gosh.
Sorry, Joe.
Well, there's nobody here.
Thank you, Joe.
You gonna let me go on? You say no?
Well, in order to be fair to everyone, the public comment period is 3 minutes for everybody. And we do, the public comment period is
So
3
I'm gonna
minutes to
stop
everybody.
now?
Yes, I'm afraid so. You did hand out your handout to everybody, though.
Okay, the handouts pretty much say everything. One thing I do want to mention very much, when we get our bill, there's never a newsletter anymore in that bill. Why not put a newsletter in there and talk a little bit about school safety? Goodbye. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Yes. Next, we have Eli Sachs.
Okay. Okay. Hello, folks. Yes, I'm Eli Sachs. I'm excited to be here. I've been trying for about a year and a half to come to one of these meetings, and part of them are canceled because there's no quorum or no agenda items or whatever. But it has been a solid year and a half. I've been trying to connect with anyone who might be interested in bicycle and pedestrian safety advocacy in this town. So I'm hoping to meet some people here. Who knows? I live near Bear Creek on 27th, and for 2 years I commuted mostly by bicycle to public health. I'm a registered nurse, a public health nurse. So I went under the overpass from Yosemite Parkway and 140 under 99, where it becomes 16th many, many days out of the week. It's a very dangerous place for bikes and pedestrians to cross traffic if you don't know where cars are speeding up from 16th to get on 99 southbound. And there are pedestrians there all the time. I saw, because I work at public health, and I see families with kids coming across that intersection and walking over the train tracks to try to get to public health. It's very dangerous. I submitted a traffic item on it, but in hindsight, I see that it was dismissed because I tried to put 2 items on there. Also, the dangerous, confusing 3-way stop sign at D Street there. So my item got dismissed because they said that they couldn't do anything about that 3-way stop sign. I do plan to submit it again. But in the meantime, I personally witnessed a bike versus car accident on the northbound 99 ramp in that same area, where I stopped bleeding myself and other bystanders. Like I said, I'm a registered nurse. I had gloves in my car. And so I know that this is a dangerous area with hands-on experience. So in 2024, I began to do some research, and I learned that Measure V, 20% of Measure V funds are meant to be spent on active transport projects and bike and pedestrian safety. However, nowhere near that percentage has been spent as far as my research online can show, and not all of the budgets are there. It's a very incomplete picture. But so I started talking with MCAG staff about it, and they in 2024, and they did say that those funds do roll over year after year, so there is a purse to be spent that, to me, it seems like is not being spent. I scheduled a meeting with Daryl Johnson and MCAG staff, and Daryl provided me a sheet which seems to, and we had a meeting about it, it seemed to me to state that there was about $250,000 spent on active transport in this last year, and $211,000 was spent to repave Yosemite up on the north side, which already had a bike lane and is not a bike and safety improvement. And my understanding is that it's actually a contract that was won by a city council member's family member on top of it. So all of these things, I'm just, and in the setting of the Bear Creek bike path still being sunken in at our street since 2023 and not being able to be crossed. And so I want to know what agency could possibly take responsibility for fixing the bike path.
Thank you. We have no more request to speak cards on this item.
Would the commission like to remove any items for separate consideration? Do we have any requests to speak forms for any of the consent items?
We do not.
So then I'm gonna go to the,
May I speak to this? You're asking for anything to be removed. I just have a question of why the minutes aren't actually on the consent calendar this time. 'Cause that's usually the only item there.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Hi. I'll introduce myself. I'm Leah Brown. I'm your senior planner, and I'm taking over the staffing for this. And so we are under staff changes right now. And so that's why we have the minutes, they're in draft, and so we intend to bring them forth at the very next one. We just had a little bit of a situation with the staff
Handing over.
changeovers. So we will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for bringing that to our attention. And we appreciate you joining us, Leah. Welcome to our team.
Thank you.
So then we're going to call for a motion. A motion on the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion by Lisa Kaiser Grant and a second by Dwight Ewing, sorry.
Please cast your votes.
Please cast your votes. Okay, it looks like we have all of the votes and that it passed unanimously.
Actually, my Leah needs to vote.
All right, and it's unanimous, and so motion passes. Okay, and then I'm gonna go here. So I'm gonna ask each person. Okay,
Excuse me, Chairperson.
yes.
Before we proceed further, in previous meetings, we've had an opportunity to address some of the public comments sometimes. I would like to, if it's okay with you, I would like to address some of the public comments that were made today.
I don't believe you're actually allowed to do that because we're not agendized to discuss the public comments.
I see.
What do we need to do to agendize that? Because I believe as city council, we can, the council can speak to the audience, but the audience, it's not like a discussion. We just can respond to something they presented.
That's correct. And from what I've seen, that's what I'm attempting to emulate here.
I don't believe that's the case, because it's not agendized, but you can add it to future agenda if you wanted to do like a presentation on that, to work with someone from the public on that. I believe we had discussed that earlier in the week.
Yes, item G1 is for commissioners to add items to future agendas.
Right, so
So
at that
that would
point,
be the time that you could add items to future agendas. In addition, item G2 is about commissioner comments, so there's also that.
at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So then we could respond to something that was presented here by the public at G2. Correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
So at G2, that would be when we could respond to the public about something that they spoke about today.
You could,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. So then, Commissioner Thomas, does that work for you? Okay. So then I'm gonna go to. So this very first one. Do any commissioners wish to make any comments about the item?
I do. Here.
Okay.
So in previous meetings that we had, we did propose agenda items, and I understand that there were staff changes. I was just a little bit confused as to why those don't carry over, because I'm pretty sure from previous meetings we did have an assortment of agenda items that we wanted to go over.
I was just recently assigned to be the staff member on this, so I'll have a chance to look over the minutes before we produce them at the next meeting, and then we'll add items, assuming off that list. So we should be good then, going forth. This is kind of a flying by the seat of our pants today, and I appreciate it all. Thank you.
Are we able to hold a special meeting since our next meeting is 2 months out so that we could get caught up on those?
Unfortunately, no.
Are we adding comments? Are we on G1 or are we on F1? I certainly have comments to make, but I don't want to jump in at the wrong time.
We're on F and we're going down. So F1, so the engineering report, active transportation plan grant application project scope.
All right. Make sure I'm all set. Okay. Good afternoon, Chairperson and committee members. I'm Laura Ivansich, Management Analyst with the Engineering Department. I'm here today to talk about the Active Transportation Program and the grant that our department is pursuing. So a little bit of background, the California Transportation Commission issued the call for projects on March 24th, 2026, about a month ago. And the deadline for this is on June 22nd. So we have a very tight time frame that we're working with on this grant. We are also conducting outreach meetings. We had a few 2 weeks ago, I believe. We are working with the Merced City School District, Weaver School District, MCEG, MCOE, on coordinating different locations and site improvements. This is a highly competitive grant. We are competing with agencies across the state for this grant. The purpose and goals of the Active Transportation Program are largely to encourage active modes of transportation across the city, such as walking and bicycling and rolling, improving public health by promoting physical activity and increasing connectivity, especially in disadvantaged communities. If you don't know what a disadvantaged community is, it is areas that are burdened by environmental pollution, socioeconomic hardships, and health disparities. And that's a large portion of this grant, looking at those communities and what improvements we can do in that area. For this grant as well, community outreach is a huge portion. As I mentioned earlier, we have done a couple outreach meetings already. We had one at Tenaya Middle School on the 14th, one here at City Hall on the 15th. We actually have one scheduled tomorrow evening at Farmdale Elementary at 6 p.m. So you're free to attend that as well. We've also created a project website on engage.cityofmerced.gov that has project updates, talks about the community meetings and feedback that we've received. And it also has my contact information on there, and you can create an account and you can put in feedback or ideas that you have citywide that you would like to see improvements on for bicycling and walking in the area. With our outreach meetings, we have started proposing a citywide Safe Routes to School project. And with that encompasses are all of the different schools within those school districts that I mentioned, the Merced City School District and Weaver. We've talked with them about what improvements they want to see, and we've started compiling a list of different areas that we can potentially use for the grant to do improvements. This is 2 slides here, but we have A through O right now, and we're increasing it as we receive more feedback from the community on what we're looking at. Some of the improvements that we have seen are new and improved ADA ramps in the areas, sidewalks, especially connectivity gaps where there are sidewalks that are missing for students and residents to get from point A to point B. We've looked at increasing some flashing beacons in the areas, street lighting and crosswalks, and hawk systems. A hawk system is a high-intensity activated crosswalk signal. This next slide here shows you what a hawk system looks like. It essentially looks like a street light, but it's for pedestrians. And so the way it works is that there's a push button that they will select to activate the crosswalk, and then the lights will flash, and they will flash red. And it essentially acts as a red light for the drivers in the area. So it's a mandatory stop for them. And we're looking at implementing these hawk signals in certain areas across the city that we found were in need of higher safety improvements. Just to reiterate, one of the reasons I'm here is to let you guys know about the outreach and the input that we're looking for. And so on that engage.cityofmerced.gov website, you can log in and create an account or contact me directly to provide input and feedback for those areas. And please share this information with anyone else that you would know that would like to provide feedback for us as well. And again, our next outreach meeting is tomorrow night at Farmdale Elementary at 6 p.m. I'm here for questions, and our city engineer, Daryl Jordan, is also here for any project-related questions as well. Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for Laura or comments?
Can we use the request to speak feature? That way we can all line up. Thanks.
Yes, give me a moment. Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions to start, and there will be more later. How will you choose from among all these ideas to which ones you want to actually apply for the grant for?
This actually might be a great question for our city engineer to jump in on.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Daryl Jordan, your city engineer. Glad to be here. Glad to see you all showed up today. So this is fun to be here. I'm glad we finally got this going. We've had several requests to get you guys convened and get this discussion going again. So great question. We do get a lot of input from different folks, different organizations. What we typically do is we take those comments and we bring them in-house to a small committee group, about 3 or 4 of us, and we put that information together and see what areas, what zones of the city have had any type of voice. We want every zone of the city to have a voice in different neighborhoods to make sure everybody has some type of input. And then we see if we can somehow, some of these are duplicated requests through a traffic committee that we've had in the past or through different organizations or groups. So a lot of these are 2 or 3 times the same issue, maybe a little bit down the street. So we have to look at those individually for location, for cost. And then there are certain scoring systems on the grant for us to score with. So we look at those, how well will those score, and hopefully make our application more applicable to a higher score in the funding. So as long as it matches and meets the criteria of our grant, we're happy to put as many of ideas that you have in there. If they don't match the grant, if it's something that's off course from what this grant wants to provide, we probably wouldn't place that in the group.
So there's like, say, 20 projects already on there now. How many would you anticipate would be funded or applied for, I should say? And I realize that some will cost more, and that might be, you might be limited by the cost as well.
There is a cost, but the framework, what's the money? How many millions?
Apologies for not mentioning that earlier. So for the ATP grant, they have a small, medium, or large portion. We are pursuing a medium, which would be anywhere from $3.5 to $10 million for the grant. Mm-hmm. With that being said, though, we are looking at having to provide some match funding. So the higher the ask for the grant, the higher the match funding. So we're trying to find that sweet spot into where we can have a highly competitive grant that will score high for us to receive the funding, but also allow us to use or allow us to have enough match funding as well for it.
May I ask a question about match funding? Mm-hmm. The Measure V was mentioned earlier, and this is something that I've been speaking both at when I'm on the Measure V Citizens Advisory Committee, as well as for the city itself for several years, and that it's the habit is to do a street project that includes some street and sidewalk and say, all right, 20% is coming from the Measure V funds for pedestrian and so forth, without an attempt to save the Measure V funds for such things as a match. Do you know if there are any Measure V funds that are set aside and available for matching funds?
I know that we are looking at using the Measure V funding as potentially the match funding for this grant if it were to be awarded. This grant, with the application deadline being June 22nd, I believe the CTC said that they would be looking at the end of the year around December for award. So it is possible that given the time frame on how long grants can take from award to actually executing a contract, we could be looking at the next fiscal year for using the match funding as well, which would be 27-28. And so that gives us another budget round to look at setting aside the Measure V funding for match.
And do you think that you would be able to do that, get in there in advance, that won't already be encumbered by all the other street projects going on? I mean, do you foresee any issues there? Because I do.
I do know that we receive funding every year fiscally for the Measure V alt modes and Measure V local from MCAG. And so each year when we work through our CIP process with the finance department and the city manager, there are potential projects that we look at. And so with this grant in mind, we would already be setting that aside or looking at setting that funding aside and working in within the confines of our projects.
Okay. And then to close off my current comment on question time, I'm wondering if the city staff can provide any records of projects where the funding was set aside for bike and pedestrian, and specifically in particular bike, before it was just said it's made to be available for regular street projects. In other words, hey, we're going to do this bike project and we're going to use Measure V funding for it.
I suggest if that's something that you want to look into, that you agendize that for a future meeting.
Okay, but that's what I meant. Yeah, wasn't going to pin you down right now. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Peggy, how do you pronounce your last name?
Shu.
Shu, thank you.
So I was wondering, so looking at the proposed projects, I went onto the, what is it called? Transportation Injury Mapping System, TIMS, and just to look at the different locations that had accidents in the past 4 years. And it looks like a few do stand out, which are near schools. And so I wanted to ask if you can look to prioritize those potentially. I'm going to guess that that would probably benefit the scoring system since it is safe routes to school. But just a few that I noted were B Street and 11th Street near Gracie, R Street and 11th Street near Tenaya. So these are all accidents where children have been injured, in most cases as pedestrians, on their way to or from school. And then there's also Childs Avenue between M and N near Alicia Reyes. There's East 26th Street and 9th near Hoover, and then Childs Avenue near Weaver. So just as far as like trying to narrow these down, I think that would be a great priority to use. I did also want to ask how you came about. It looks like the solutions that are being proposed to make these areas safer is typically the Hawk system and the flashing beacon. I'm wondering if you considered any other measures or how you came to those as being sort of the primary tools.
I'll speak to the TIMS data first. Definitely, we are utilizing that information. We are actually contracting with the city's grant writing team that we have to assist us with that specific data and the disadvantaged community data as well in order to strengthen the application and help bolster those locations and use those for the data. I will let Daryl speak to the second question that you had.
A lot of the improvements that you've seen are recommendations by the different school districts and what have you, and by citizens. So we're not, we're open to any type of measures or mitigations that the public may have. If someone comes in with the flexible bollards or something like that, we'll definitely look at that through different certain corridors. But this is really a focus on what our public and what our citizens want to see and why they want to see it. So they have a voice to have us score well to try to get these funds for this. So we're open to any type of mitigation. So
That's great. So I do have some suggestions just because the last year the city council approved the local road safety plan. And within that, they identified or approved the safe systems approach, which is the idea that humans are going to make errors. And so the best way to prevent accidents is to design the infrastructure to help drivers or people, drive more safely. And so they identify a number of different measures that would be beneficial. I think, especially with I think the proposal of the flashing beacons in certain, I was looking at some specific areas. I'm wondering if curbs extensions could be considered, or the street tables or humps, I think. Any of those which actually reduce the speeds on those roads, because I think ultimately high speeds are what lead to worse accidents and injury. I would definitely propose considering some of these other options. And I think also it's relevant to Measure V, because I think, with when the sidewalks are added, great, but the thing is that it's not just about creating connection, it's about actually creating safer infrastructure. So I think all of these different measures that are proposed, if you refer back to the local road safety plan, it very clearly lists all the different types of measures that can be applied. And it also ranks them according to their various tiers of what different safety factors are applied. And ultimately, the safest is when, bikes and pedestrians are separated. Can't always be the case. So then reducing speeds is the second tier. That's the most significant in terms of improving safety. And so I think curb extensions, things like that actually get cars driving slower and indicate to the driver versus just a speed limit that they can ignore if they want. I think that's probably ideally the best approach that I would recommend. And I think that's it for now.
Those are great suggestions. You're talking about traffic calming measures, the decreased width of the throats of the intersections and what have you, the speed tables. Those are great ideas. And if like Laura said, we do have the website or the meetings, if you can be specific about maybe a street that you would suggest speed tables or some other type of traffic calming, that will help us. It's better if it comes from each of you into the funnel so that we can push it out through the funnel, through the website or through your comments at the meetings. But we're glad to look at that. Like Laura said, we're probably at about half the budget of what we could actually shoot for with this. So we're looking for more projects, and those are a little bit costly, especially when you do the curb extensions, but those are great mitigation measures. And fortunately and unfortunately, the people who are sitting up here today typically do follow the street rules. They follow the speeds, they watch the signs, but the complaints we get at are people speeding, people not following proper traffic control. And those people, they don't follow the law. And so as we put up signs, as we put up striping, it doesn't stop some of these people. The speed tables sometimes do because that upsets their path of travel. So those are something that we can look into. But unfortunately, we do have a problem with speeders and people not following proper traffic safety around town.
So sorry, so you mentioned that you are looking for more projects because you have extra funding for it?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
that's great, yeah, so the best way is...
More specific you can be, the better for us, so.
Okay, great. And that can be done also via the
The gentleman
website.
talked earlier today about the Caltrans corridor. We can't do anything within that Caltrans corridor. We have no authority in there, but he made a great point about the safety issues there. So his specific comments coming through our funnel will help us at least address outside of that corridor. And that gives me the ability to talk to my Caltrans coordinator and tell them, hey, we've got citizens that are actually seeing issues here. Maybe they can help us.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Shu. Commissioner Chambers?
Thank you so much. I did, thank you, it's Laura, right? And Daryl, thank you so much. I did get to go to one of these ATP community outreach meetings, and you guys did a great job of showing and showcasing all of these projects that you guys are proposing. And a lot of teachers, parents, staff members for the school district came to kind of give input, which I greatly appreciate because it gives us community members an opportunity to kind of see what our city members are doing, which I greatly want to see more of, and I'm gracious for that. A quick question specifically, Daryl, when it came to the committee for the selection process, how do you guys select who's going to be in that committee to propose which projects? And I understand the scoring system of what you were saying is in like, you guys want to select out of, these probably 10 projects, who is going to necessarily be in there? I know that we've gotten ATP projects in the past and money for that, and so would like to just hear a little bit more about the selection process for the committee.
Typically, that's a great question. Typically, it's made up of people from my staff from the engineering department. With my license through the state of California, as for the city here, I'm the one, good and bad, responsible for any improvements within the city right of way. It all falls on my shoulders and my professional responsibility. So I'm the lead and I'm the holdup of stuff not getting done. So I'm the one that needs to go through. I also have professional staff that are also licensed by the state of California that can perform traffic safety requirements. We typically have somebody from planning who's also weighing in on that. We just had some person leave our staff and go to a different city, but we'll have someone from planning also from that viewpoint give us some input too, of maybe what they're hearing or what they're seeing or some of the studies made. So, but typically it's the engineering staff and my analyst here who has all the numbers in her head and knows what finances we have and where we can draw from Measure V or what Measure SB1 or whatever funds. She's funneling all the money our way and tells us what we can and can't use on the money, and then we are evaluating what's the most effective cost and for that we can spend on these projects and still stay within budget and our CIP program that we have evaluated by the council every year. So that's where it usually at. It's not that we're not open to other people, but there's got to be a point where we have 1,000 opportunities. We have to funnel it down to what's feasible and what we can get approved. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Martinez?
Yeah, I had a question. So I know it has been brought up, like the hawk system. I've traveled throughout the state and I saw in some communities, but it's like when I'm traveling as well and I see sometimes people not stopping, right? And a school bus puts out their flashers. So is there coordination with law enforcement or such funding that's looked at to ensure that there's someone monitoring, right? Because like you said, like most of us tend to be follow the law. But there are those bad apples that do not follow the law, and at times it's unfortunate that when those bad apples don't follow the law, there are incidents that harm the public. So I guess my question is, it's an interesting insight, but would there be coordination with law enforcement or of that nature?
Good question, Commissioner. Typically when we provide a new traffic signal or a hawk system, the police department is involved at the get-go. They're out there monitoring with a motorcycle cop or somebody in service that day, so that as it gets in transition, they can catch the people. Because some people aren't going to pay attention. They've traveled that for 30 years. They've never had to stop, and they're listening to their radio or on their phone, and they're not even going to see it. So there will be some traffic stops at the beginning. The best way to change behavior is to give them a ticket so that they pay $300 or $400 out of their pocket. Unfortunately, that's the best way to stop that type of behavior. But you're absolutely right. The majority of us do follow the law, and we would stop at that. But there are always people who either don't pay attention or don't want to pay attention, or they'll look both ways, even though it's flashing. Somebody's in a black hoodie or something, they don't see them, and they're going to shoot through it anyway. You're right, and that's unfortunate. But you know, if you look at statistically, you know, all of our traffic control is probably 90% passive. There's never a cop there, except once in a while, right? So how do you get the cops in the right area of town at the right time, at the right situation? The best time with a new implementation, have them there at the beginning, so people are kind of get hit at the beginning. When people see people pulled over with lights flashing, it not only hurts the person with the ticket, but people are seeing people get pulled over. So it has a rippling effect throughout that community and corridor of people who use that transit route. So you're right. It is good to have a beginning, but then it will fade after time because they'll be at the next new one and they won't be at that hawk anymore. So has it sunk in? Is it being effective? It's tough. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But it's tough getting people to follow the law when no one's looking, to be honest with you. So
Thank you. And then I had another question. So when these projects are being considered, because correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I know practically in the state legislature, they're considering some speed cameras or stuff like that. So when like these type of funds become available, do they keep in line with what the state is considering, or is it something that's a little bit behind?
Speed cameras wouldn't be incorporated into funding in this type of project, but we do have one in town that you may be aware of. It's been very effective. There is, I don't remember the number, but the number of tickets that come out of that is amazing. I can't believe how many people still run that intersection. But so they're looking at additional intersections through town, but it would not be a part of this grant here. So
Yeah, because I was interested that you mentioned it. I think I made the math, and that was over $500,000 in 6 months that
Yeah.
they cut at that intersection. Thank you.
Yep. And they're still doing it.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. And then I had questions. So I know that I attended one of the meetings, and so I briefly discussed about enforcement because PD was not in attendance, and so having a department, you know, that would be responsible for something, I would like to see them at those meetings so that they can speak with us about how they can do that, because I know that they have their own inner operations. But you're saying that cameras are not something that we can suggest for this funding?
It would not score well with this. It's more of an enforcement issue. It's not a, what would typically you'd see in an ATP project as far as that type of mobility options for the folks, so.
And do we have the option, because I know that there were projects that were put up that were really focused on the curbs, not just the Hawks, but, you know, structuring the curbs and those walking areas, because we have a lot of walkers. And so I think that's a really good place to focus on. But have you guys also considered the schools that do not offer transportation to their students? For example, Muir. Muir is a complete walking school. It's completely in residential. They do not even have school buses, even though they are MCSD. They have no school buses or school routes. And so even just safety of like the sidewalks being redone, because I notice when I walk there, you know, sidewalks are cracked, you know, they're just older infrastructure, and people's yards, you know, plants and things. I don't know if that's something that can be taken into consideration, because you guys are looking at 2 miles around schools. And so I feel like that would be great, not only for the students, but the people that live there, right? Because it's a huge walking area, very residential, connects to the public library, the police department, the sheriff's department, the county clerk's office, Bear Creek, which pipelines into Applegate Park. So a very busy area for people to walk and get enjoyment and just overall increase our community's safety and enjoyment of the green spaces and facilities that we have and that we've been pouring money into as well, because we've been increasing Applegate Park, you know, Kittyland and the zoo. And so I would assume that we will have even more people wanting to go and visit. And as we grow and have more people moving here, more children pipelining and more families pipelining into those areas.
Sure, definitely. I'll speak to John Muir really quickly. When we initially met with the city school district, that was toward the end of March, I believe, and we looked at every school site, and I think the initial assessment for Muir at that time was because we had a CMAQ grant a couple years ago to do these sidewalks and ADA ramps in that area. And so we felt that preliminary, when we were looking at the school sites, that one didn't have the necessity of improvements that other schools did. So we prioritized the schools based off the school district. However, your comments do ring true, and I think that the scope has expanded since that discussion, and so we can definitely take another look at that area and increasing in that 2 mile radius that you mentioned.
Yeah, because if you guys, like he had said, we can anything. I would rather ask for more and get no's than not put things on there. And then my other question is the committee that you guys talked about for engineering and planning that makes the decision. So once you guys have attained the grant, right? Because right now we don't even know that we will actually have the grant. But once we get the funding, it's boots on the ground and running to the finish to get it done. So it's good to get the questions and the planning done now of where we want this to go. Mm-hmm. So how do you guys interact with BPAC? And how do you guys envision the citizens, BPAC, and you guys working on this all the way through roles and responsibilities? Because I think that that's something that the community and ourselves, I think it would help all of us for that flow. And like it was stated, there's been personnel changes and we're trying to get our feet back. And so I would love to make sure that we have a very good support for us to work symbiotically for us as BPAC to represent the community's interests, our collective expertise, because we have a lot of very intelligent commissioners here, so that we can further help support the city in all the wonderful work that you do as our city grows and gets better.
Definitely. So I believe the next BPAC meeting is on June 23rd, which is actually after the application deadline, hence why we're here today. And so as far as the committee members communicating with us, I would highly recommend going through the website, the engage.cityofmerced.gov, that has my contact information, or you can also submit requests on there. With that being said, though, we still do have to go to City Council for approval for this grant, and that is scheduled for the June 1st council meeting. And we have our internal deadlines in which we have to get certain documents up to the city attorney. And so we are to the point now internally that we need to fine tune this scope fairly quickly in order to move forward to finalize the application within another we're at 2 months, about 2 months out for the application deadline, which there's a lot of work to do. We have a consultant that we have to bring on board as well for a project study report for the grant, and we have to finalize the scope for that and ensure that there's enough time in order for them to get that report to us.
And so just to kind of clarify a little bit more, so what is BPAC's role with city council and the city staff for BPAC to give feedback to city council when these things are being presented to city council?
I'm not sure if that's something,
I think the best answer for that is the action time is now. We need your input now, within the next week or two. After that point, after we apply for the grant, if we do get the grant, we will have a defined scope of what we're doing. So there won't be much more input at that point. We'll be bringing that to the BPAC to show you of all the projects that have been approved. As we get plans that you can actually look at, so it's not just ideas, as the plans get put to paper, you'll be able to see those come into fruition. And so we'll be providing that information to you at that time as information items, but won't be really an interaction point at that point for this grant. Other opportunities, when we have CMAQ grants coming up and others, there will be, but this one will close in a few weeks as far as input from the BPAC.
So it doesn't need to be done at a meeting. It can be done outside of the meeting.
Sure, yeah, that's better for us because we can show that as you as the community speaking, not necessarily as the BPAC speaking, so.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any other commissioners that have any comments or questions?
Okay. Hi, Curtis Thomas here. I wanted to open with, like Peggy, I went through the list of proposals and I have remarks about all of them, but rather than drive you crazy, I'm gonna just hit some high-level points. Let's see. I did want to talk about the Hawk systems. I know a very popular topic, but this was actually the impetus for me to learn of their existence. So that was fairly exciting. I did some research on them. To my knowledge, there is not one in the city of Merced yet, or if there is, I've yet to encounter it. What I've read is that oftentimes when they're initially installed in a city, people are not familiar with them and they can cause quite a lot of confusion with drivers, which obligates a lot of education and enforcement efforts with their initial installation, which kind of piles on an extra cost, an extra I guess you might say hidden cost with the system. And from what I was reading, the cost of the systems is fairly substantial. The numbers varied a lot, but they're not cheap, suffice it to say. And it seems like the niche of these things is ideally to help people cross arterial streets like G or M. I saw a few of them proposed for residential areas like V or 11th. That seemed a little surprising to me. A little bit overkill, maybe. So I kind of wanted to talk about the value there as opposed to physical infrastructure like pedestrian islands or elevated crosswalks. That is, crosswalks that are elevated to sidewalk level, little similar to speed tables. I think from what I read, oftentimes the pedestrian islands and elevated crosswalks end up coming out cheaper than hawk systems, as well as more effective, according to several different studies I was able to read, substantially more effective, which seems sensible to me because photons cannot deflect drivers. So I kind of wanted to plant the idea for you guys as you go into this review process that I kind of think that we should be prioritizing hardened physical infrastructure over these hawk systems. They are really cool. I'm not trying to say that they don't have their place, but it seems like maybe we're very taken with a technological solution as opposed to something that's boring but effective in some of these proposals. I also wanted to talk about the multi-use paths. Merced is not the only city in the United States that's having a lot of issues with pedestrians having negative interactions with people on e-scooters and e-bikes. There are several multi-use paths that are proposed here. I do want to plant the idea that as we build out our multi-use path network, perhaps it would be valuable for us to do what some other cities have done, which is to divide the path with a small greenway and dedicate one half of the path to pedestrians and one half of the path to people on vehicles like e-scooters and e-bikes. That way you've got a higher speed traffic that's separated from the lower speed traffic. Now that doesn't completely solve everything, but it's a good first step. I also did want to talk about the outreach efforts surrounding this. My first inkling that you guys were reaching out to the public was reading the agenda for this meeting. I live in the neighborhood of Farmdale. My son goes to Farmdale. I've been in the office. They don't have a flyer up there. I would have completely missed it were I not on this board. I know that the city has had some issues with getting the word out to the public to get people engaged. This seems a little below what I've come to expect for the city. I'm not trying to bag on anybody, but I was just kind of surprised, just really surprised by it. So I was wondering if you could help me to understand what the outreach efforts have looked like from your side.
I'll let Laura speak to the specifics, but as spoken at the beginning, we got a short fuse on this less than a month ago. We got this released, but your school, Farmdale, was provided flyers much earlier than what you've heard about. So city made their effort to make sure they knew. Whether they transferred that to yourself, I'm not sure how that worked, but do you want to talk about the outreach? Sure.
If I could just share, having worked with the school system for a long time, maybe getting the liaison that's at the school to be connected with you or the person that's in charge of the parent square so that it can go out to parent square or whatever their mass digital media system is, because I know a lot of parents are working and they're really trying to make sure to pipeline, like the school is actively working to get parents to look there. And as a parent myself, that's where I look at a lot of things while I'm sitting at sports practice or in between meetings. That's how I stay informed.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for your input. As far as the outreach that we did for the 2 meetings that we previously had, those flyers were created and pushed on both of our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram and shared across that platform by multiple users, as well as I contacted the Merced City School District community, I forget her title, but the one who pushes out the information on Parent Square. And so they also did a blast on Parent Square for those 2 meetings that we held at Tenaya and here at City Hall. I also did a radio spot on community conversations to try to get that information out as well, mainly for the Engage website at that time, because that radio spot was done after those meetings and prior to us getting the Farmdale outreach meeting scheduled. As Daryl mentioned, it's unfortunate that we've had such a tight time frame on this grant, and so we've been pushing our efforts, but there's always need for improvement in that area. I appreciate your feedback as well on that.
I think also just us getting more information about BPAC out also, and that's something that we can agendize and place on so that we can help do the heavy lifting for the city, because that is part of our role, to my understanding, and just help there also just be, because if people are coming to all these meetings, all the information is at these meetings, and if we have them agendized properly, placed in advance, people don't need to be trying to fit, because as a parent and many other roles that I play in life, trying to get to every place. Like I couldn't even go to your second meeting because there was a UC Merced community meeting that was held the same exact time, the same exact day. David and I were actually there, Commissioner Watkins. And so, we want to be impactful community partners as citizens, as BPAC commissioners. But we also need to make sure that we're trying to also streamline these things and make it easy for people to attend. Maybe even looking at virtually projecting the meetings so that people can attend even while they're waiting for their child at sports. Because we ask a lot of citizens, hey, stay healthy, stay safe, go exercise, go to work, go do all these things. And there's only so many hours in a day, especially for our lower socioeconomic families and people that have more barriers, that may live on the south side that don't have a vehicle, and our walkers. That's exactly the kind of demographic that we want to hear from here, because they're the ones that are using those paths all the time, not just for fun, not just for recreation. Like, they need to cross there so they can get food, water, basic needs completed. And so continuing to work on that, because I know that it's everyone, everywhere, the schools, everywhere, they have a hard time getting people to attend. And even for myself, I would love to be at everything, but I cannot be at everything.
I
apologize.
I also just wanted to add, I was under the impression that you guys had a longer runway. I missed the part where you guys did not have a longer runway on this. So I'm sorry for that. And once again, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here. All right. So thank you for your answer.
Oh, of course, no problem.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. And then this staff too, sorry, I'm learning how to use this, everyone. So that's part of why I'm so flighty. I apologize. So staff two, I believe, is Commissioner Watkins. Yes? Are you waiting?
Yeah, I did press
Okay.
the request to speak button.
Sorry, it doesn't say your name. So I was like, are there staff that want to talk? So go ahead, Commissioner Watkins.
That's good to know. I want to have some general comments and some comments on specific projects here that are in the list. I want to say, first of all, I'm very excited that we're pursuing this. There's a lot of good projects on here that are sorely needed. On the general front, I want to echo some of the previous comments here from Commissioner Hsu and about the kind of merits of lights versus physical traffic calming. I'd be curious, I'm sure costs vary, but for these like hawk lights, we're talking like an overhead mast arm kind of thing, like is in the picture. Yeah, it does make me wonder that, how many 100 or 1,000 flex posts could you buy for the price of one of those light systems? And, does that get us more bang for the buck in some of these areas? Because again, like the underlying issue is like high speed traffic, and we'd rather see lower speed traffic rather than just, higher speed traffic that stops at just this one spot on the street. A couple comments on some of the specific projects here. I guess before I get to that, I'm also curious what, in terms of, traffic calming measures that you could implement through this grant, what's the space of, curb extensions were mentioned, and, I know anytime you start pouring concrete, like, things get expensive. What's the ability to implement those with, more of a like quick build approach where, maybe you can cover a bigger area with the same amount of dollars, versus, does this kind of thing need to be more of a permanent installation?
I would kind of encourage you, Commissioner, not to worry about the dollars, the cost per dollars right now, but we would like to see all types of traffic calming. If there's a curb bump out area that you would think would be effective in a certain area of town, we'd like you to submit that as a potential project. We'd like to do all the above, not just a couple, but all kinds of different traffic calming measures with this grant. So the more thoughtful you can be on everyone you just suggested, the better. So don't think about dollars and cents, because we're still about $2 or $3 million in the budget to get this stuff done. So we got a lot of projects we can add to that. We have a short time to put those together. So please add those to the list on the website so we can look at adding those to the project.
Okay, thanks. And that's helpful. And I guess, is it, as far as like specific project comments, is that helpful to get into that now, or should we route that through the?
You can route through that. A lot of these are from the school district. These aren't necessarily engineering projects. We've been working with the school district for the last year and a half on a list of these. So it was easy to bring them in to a lot of these projects because they've been working on making this list for a long time. A lot of these are newer ones from some of the community, but right now we need you to be the eyes that we don't have in the streets, in the neighborhoods of where we need these. Do we need a speed table out on your street? Please tell us why. And maybe we can add that to the program. If the bump outs you think would be more effective than that, I will look at that and say, well, I will look at, should we put speed tables there, or should we put the bump outs there? Or are there storm drain issues if we bump those out that the street won't drain anymore? So maybe that's not the best place for me to put those at this point. Or maybe the street's in such a bad situation, we can do that and fix the street at the same time. So I'll look at those little nuances. I need you to really pinpoint where the safety hazards are so we can look at remedies for those and give us suggestions. So I'd rather have you focus on that rather than, does this one work or not? Because a lot of these are from people like you who would like to see that in their neighborhood, so.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess a few of the projects, just to touch on briefly, the areas that I'm most familiar, there's a couple that are close on Parsons or with Chenoweth. Parsons has a lot of potential to be a like really much the primary bike route, I think, from north of the creek. So there's, that crossing that's identified is certainly one I bike through there, multiple times a week, and is an issue. That would be one where I'd call out where some general traffic calming would be effective.
Fantastic.
Parsons isn't the busiest street in the city, but it is maybe one of the most overbuilt. So anything that can be done to, I assume it was meant to be an arterial at some point.
Correct, and we've had comments of putting a pedestrian bicycle bridge over the creek where they come to. It was supposed to be a vehicular bridge, but that got nixed by the community. That doesn't mean we can't look at a pedestrian and bicycle bridge.
Yeah, I think a pedestrian and bike bridge there is maybe the single biggest point improvement you could make to make Merced more bikeable, because that Bear Creek is like the biggest barrier to being able to bike downtown from anywhere north of the creek. So that
your support would be very helpful for that.
So that's a great one. Also, a comment from a friend that has kids in school was they focus on, for these class 1 paths that are proposed, if you can connect a school directly to an existing path, I think
Absolutely.
that adds a lot. And just to as an example of that, again, like at Chenoweth, it was not clear exactly where it was being proposed, but it seemed like you could potentially connect Rascal Creek, the Rascal Creek path, to the back of Chenoweth through like there's maybe a county enclave there, but there is maybe space for a right-of-way along some drainage infrastructure there, and then you could connect that to then you'd be connected to the undercrossing on Parsons, which is, of course, better than.
Connectivity scores are very high with this grant, so if you can provide us a route that will provide that connectivity, we'd.
Great,
like to have that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to pass some of that along. Yeah, similarly, like I think the paths along G Street, like towards the hospital, are, very obvious things and are great. There is a need to cross G Street there to kind of make that most effective. So that would be another great thing to add.
Great ideas.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Commissioner Grant?
Yes, thank you. Take a look at K where it says Parsons Avenue, Bear Creek to Teak Avenue, 8-foot multi-use path, and then various school areas. Parsons is so wide, and the idea of squishing it all down to an 8-foot multi-use path doesn't seem to make sense, number one. And number two, 8 feet is not enough for a multi-use path anymore. The considerations that the public is bringing to us, we have bikes and we have pedestrians. They already don't fit well on an 8-foot multi-use path, much less adding in some electric bikes. I believe the bike design standards did basically say 8 foot's are kind of our minimum. Ideally, we'd like more than that. So when planning for areas where there's walkers, there's students, there's bikers, there's e-bikes, I just beg of you to make a wider bike path, like 10-foot minimum multi-use path.
That'd be a great comment if you could add that.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
And specifically in this area where there's like 4 school areas listed, that's a place that suggests we need continuity, not just path, no path, path, no path. Even if it's just a really good bike lane,
Yes.
connecting them, okay. And back to the idea of for the future, and again, not throwing anyone under the bus, but letting the BPAC know ahead of time about the workshops would kind of make this an even more efficient and effective forum, because we've already would have had a chance to talk about it, get our ideas and so forth. And I just have to say that I agree with Commissioner Thomas about somehow or another separating out the fast and the slow. And again, that if it's on a multi-use path, that would need to be wider.
On that note too, the city council will be bringing that issue forth, if not the next meeting, then one of the next couple meetings, because that's an issue that people around the whole community are bringing to the council. So they're going to address that in some fashion. So
How to have some kind of either separation or
how do you
some kind of
regulate
control.
that? People going 30 miles an hour down a bike path. So
Right, yes, exactly, okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll send you some things.
that'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
And if you could attend that meeting when city council addresses that, that'd be very helpful as well.
Okay, thanks.
Keep an eye out.
And that's a very real thing. When they were doing the kiddie land construction for the train and they had blocked off half of the pathway along the creek at night, because I typically walk when the sun is down, I almost ended up in the creek with my dog several times because lights would be coming at me so quickly. At the beginning, I was like, what is this? And it would be the electric motorized vehicles coming, and they would not, they could see me because their lights were
Sure.
coming at me. It would not slow down whatsoever. And there's not a shoulder there, so with half of the pathway taken out. And so I had to be very careful to make sure that me and my dog didn't end up in the creek. Commissioner Martinez?
In case I had some, clarification, right? So, thank you to all the commissioners who has helped enlighten me more. And I guess what I've gotten so far is that the list is not final.
Right.
And the reason why we see a lot of schools is because schools have been working on this. But if there's community members out there who do not live near a school, but if they fall under the presentation, I forgot the slide where it says purpose and goals of ATP, if they fall within one of those categories, they can still submit an idea, right? Doesn't have to be near a school.
It's not restricted to anybody in the community, really. Anybody throughout the entire community can submit ideas. It just scores a little bit better if it's in a disenfranchised zone, so.
It's also just because the purpose of the grant is for within the 2-mile radius. That's the only reason why it needs to be near a school. So it's not necessarily because of the people that live there. It's because that's what the grant dollars are for.
And it's citywide, not just for schools, it's for the entire community, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I was referencing you just because I know UC Merced's pretty far and El Capitan is like near there, but there's definitely no walk path on.
There's
on the
projects
road.
coming in. You'll see them. There's annexations coming in through planning, and we're building all the way out there to them, so you're gonna see those coming.
Thank you.
And we'll bring those to you so you can take a look at them, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. That was actually one of my questions. So I was going to ask if any of these infrastructures that we're proposing already, like the Hawks, are we seeing that mimicked in the UC's infrastructure grant and what they're proposing? Because we haven't seen that yet. That was one of the last things that I heard about, and I haven't heard or seen anything. UC Merced hasn't been to any of our meetings, and so I'd like to see if because, again, the more people are exposed to something, so if with that new infrastructure they have Hawks, it would make me more inclined to say, yeah, let's put Hawks within the city so that there's that flow, that continuity, and then continuity of education as well, right? It makes it easier for people to adopt when it's the same.
That's a good point. I'm not aware of any Hawk systems in their system, but I can look into that for you, so.
Yeah, well, they're gonna be at our next meeting for a presentation?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are we going to have a presentation on that?
We'll get to that.
Got it.
Gone. So when we have your add items to future agenda.
Thank you. So then my questions for this, so scoring systems, do the Hawks systems score better than the raised islands? Because we do have I'm blending the two. Elevated crosswalks and pedestrian islands, and we do have an elevated crosswalk. It's on county property at the BHRS building. They do have an elevated crosswalk. There's 2 stop signs, and it's elevated, so it acts as a speed bump as well as a crosswalk. And I think a lot of people don't realize it's a crosswalk because it doesn't look like the others throughout the city. I'm not aware of any others, but I think so it's not technically city, but it's...
We're building a brand new one next to one of our parks. I forget the name of the park off the top of my head, but,
Oh, is it the new...
it's the interior park. By where Chris lives. Anyway, there is.
The one out at Mission? The one out by Weaver?
No, but
Not the sports complex.
maybe I'll bring that to you next time, but we're building one of those right now, so.
Oh, wonderful. And then education plan, what does it look like with these organizations? You've talked about because these are going by schools and you're talking about having communication with the schools that they have a running list. So do they have some kind of plan to implement education about these new upgrades? Especially because if they're by the schools, the schools could make that part of their education piece to share with the families because they would be the ones, accessing these the most. And then do they, that running list of things that they think should be added or worked on, could they share that with us, the BPAC committee? Would that be something that could be continually shared with us so that we could be aware?
I don't have any control of their schedule or what they provide, but maybe that you could add that to one of your future items to invite them to come and share what's going on with the different school district issues. A lot of their projects you see right here, so most of them are going to be on this list. But
Wonderful.
I think that's a great idea to invite them to come and provide the information that they have for you, so.
So that would be the same with the Measure Bond Committee that was mentioned earlier. We'd ask them we'd invite them to come. And then can we incentivize in any way utilizing more biking and pedestrian modes? Could we have a campaign citywide through that? And maybe it's through the police department. I know they get community grants because they do bicycle education. They give away bikes. The CHP does as well. They give out helmets, bike locks. I recently asked the PD if they had any bike helmets or bike locks.
Me too.
They said they didn't have any, so I'm going to follow up with them.
I heard
and
CHP might have some, so.
Yes, and Officer Zuniga, I'm always out asking him for that and car seats. They really do want us to be safe. It's a wonderful thing to have them in our community. But so I'll put it on to ask them to come, but also, could we, I know like they would give out like free bikes, they would raffle off bikes, or they would give things out. And so could we work on going after a grant to help with when we put in this kind of infrastructure to help, or even without infrastructure, because if we provide the education, it could eliminate the need for infrastructure, right? Because even when we get grants to put in infrastructure, then we have to maintain the infrastructure. And we just had there was a community meeting at the UC that Commissioner Watkins and I went to, and they talked about the return on dollar and investment for the community and making community sustainable. And one of the things that's discussed is those kinds of things, the upkeep. So when you put in infrastructure, not only is it expensive, you also have to continually maintain it. And that's where a lot of communities struggled. And so while we are expanding so quickly at every single corner, we have, which is beautiful, also how do we keep it sustainable? And I think that education is one of those things. I'd love to see grants, and I don't know if it would be you or PD or who specifically, or saying, hey, schools, how can you guys get grant dollars to help with this education? Because most of our families and community pipeline through there in one way or another to make sure that they're educated. Because like you mentioned earlier, even if you put in the infrastructure, if there's not education and enforcement, then people fall off. And
It's
I know
a
that
suggestion then.
yes, and I know that PD has talked about how they have lower numbers than they've had historically working for them. So we've been expanding at an exponential rate, especially with the UC. And so how do we help them maintain their numbers, but also their effectiveness and playing their role in this infrastructure piece of enforcement, especially if we can't put in cameras, because that was one of my ideas was, if we put the cameras and it takes the snapshot, it eliminates as much need for there to be a police officer there in that exact moment. And I have seen people hit pedestrians and take off. I've called the PD and they're not in the area. And, the person's trying to hobble along and go. I myself am not a nurse, so I don't intercede unless it's CPR. That's the scope of my abilities. But I know from my experience, the police are not just, I've had to file 2 police reports recently, and it took 3 hours for one and 5 hours for the next. And so when you're talking about response time, I know they're doing a wonderful job, but how can we also help alleviate some things off of them? And when we're putting in infrastructure, when we're utilizing these dollars and funds, making it so that it can make them be as effective as they can, and making sure that that infrastructure works in line with how they do their job. Well, those were questions. Do you have anything? Sorry, before I call the next commissioner. Sorry, Leah's like, Carolina's
I'm
talking
trying to
too much.
summarize that multifaceted question. Some of this is priority questions for the city. And when it comes to priorities, we get dictated to by the city council on what our priorities are supposed to be. They tell us what their priorities are, and then that flows down from them. So as a BPAC, if those are some priorities that you'd like the city to follow, it needs to be elevated to the city council, whoever your council person is. You need to make that known to them, because that gives us the authority to act on them. We can't act on them from the BPAC.
And so we as a commission don't go to, we go as independent citizens to the city council and do that.
Right.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
One thing I would encourage you to do as well as at Planning Commission, have any of you attended the Planning Commission meetings?
No, I don't even know when they are.
Okay, I would suggest if you can check your calendar, when we get new subdivisions that come in planning divisions or developments, and you want to see a 10-foot wide sidewalk, as Ms. Grant said, there's the time. We're setting conditions for that developer to build that development. If you can provide your voice at that point, before it gets even to me and say, we need wider sidewalks, I would like you to consider wider sidewalks. Some of the times the developers say, for approval, I'll be glad to add a 10-foot sidewalk instead of a 5-foot sidewalk, or some other enhancement that you guys see. Like, I'd like to see speed tables with this new development. I think that'd be safer for my community. If you could voice your opinion at the beginning of a project, when they're presenting to Planning Commission, you'll have a lot. That's a very effective place to be. And then by the time it gets to me, I can make sure it's engineered properly. But if you've already set the conditions and the expectations from the get-go, we're gonna be able to do a lot of the things that each one of you mentioned today, but we gotta catch them there when it's fresh and they're proposing their projects, whether it's commercial or residential. That's the best time to get these changes made that you wanna see, so.
And before they've won the contract.
And before they award the contract, because once they award the contract, they're like, I've got a budget, I can't add another couple feet to this sidewalk, that
Yes.
would kill my budget.
Yes,
But
but
when-
before their
But when
budget
they're
is
looking
kind
for
of
an approval,
endless.
yeah, when their hands are open looking for approval, they're willing to negotiate. So that's the best time to try to get some of these modifications you're asking for.
And that was something that was brought up to me out in the community as well, especially from people that enforce, that, it's their job to enforce. They were talking about how come, we have all these new developers and that's not being something pushed into for them to get. And at the UC Merced presentation, they said, you guys know what you have because you have the land. That is the biggest bargaining chip. So before you give it away, you need to really be conscientious about what you are approving and allowing into your city and continue to be here.
And even UC improvements, voice what you would like to see the UC to provide.
Yes,
Don't
and
be
working
afraid
together.
to tell them what you want, so.
Yes, because they are like a city within a city, so. Commissioner Martinez?
Yes, I just had like a quick suggestions for next year. I know I think the deadline is coming soon, and I did see the website, and I know the language can either be English, Spanish, or Hmong, but just for suggestion for next year or next time, if the language can maybe be increased, because we have other communities in Merced, and the other one, not to segue, I don't know if there was something, but I know a community member mentioned about things that used to be seen in the bills. I know we used to get those. I don't know if in the future something like this, like a form or something, can be put in the mail so community members can get that, and then it's up to them, of course, if they mail it to the city. Just because I know some of us, we have access to internet. But that's not something that everybody shares. Not everybody has access to internet. Not everybody knows how to access internet or use internet, and there's just some barriers to entry. And again, I understand there's a deadline coming in. The city's trying to mitigate some of the outreach. But I was just thinking for next time, if there could be a better effort. I know I'm reaching out to community members and let them know about this. But I think if for the future we can sort of propose suggestions to better engage your community, it'll be better, because I can already think of some community members who'll be like, hey, I don't know how to use the internet, or I don't have access to it, or they just like writing by pencil or pen. So I think more flexibility would be better, if I can offer that suggestion for something like this happens next time.
What we can agree to is between Lee and myself as planning and engineering, we can bring that up to the level of the city manager. But as far as placing that into the newsletter, which is going to cost time and money, it's going to have to come from the city manager or the city council for us to spend that time and expense to do that. It's a great idea. So between Lee and I, we'll promote that idea and let them know that that's what you're talking about. Again, if you can talk to your city councilman in your district, you're going to get 50-fold value and push than you're going to get from asking me to do that for you.
Thank you.
May I interject
Yeah, go
also?
ahead. Yeah.
There is a newsletter, however, it has been reduced. It's only quarterly. And so that gives us, we only have for, every quarter can we do that. And so it does go out, but it's very limited. And I know that it is in multiple languages, again, which makes it very limited because they try to keep it as a one pager front and back, and it adds to the expense of the overall utility bill. That's why it's been limited. And of course, with the timeline for this grant, there was absolutely no ability to put it in there this time, unfortunately.
Can we televise this meeting so that, again, instead of being redundant with information, people can get information from this meeting? Is that an option?
I think it is. Is that not right? It is. It is.
Oh,
live
it's
streaming right now.
live? Okay, so then again, I think just a campaign, talking about what kind of a campaign we could do to promote, and I'll save my other piece for later. Commissioner Thomas, yes, Commissioner Thomas?
Just real quick, there were two things that I wanted to get to first. I forgot to mention earlier, I also wanted to plant the idea that Golden Valley High School, I know that I know because I've had several exchange students go there. They are very heavily impacted in their bus system. Anything that you guys could do to facilitate more pedestrian transit to that school would be significantly helpful. Every exchange student I've had said that there was a standing room only on the buses.
Oh, my.
Which is, pretty concerning. And the other thing that I wanted to ask was, do you have any numbers for how many people you've had attend the outreach meetings so far?
I'm going to estimate a dozen to 15 people at each meeting.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And just one other point there, I think is your future agenda item as we bring the school district in here, that's the perfect venue to ask when a superintendent or whoever is representing the school district, that comment would go a long way if they're here to hear that. So I'll try to convey that, but I have no authority to say, hey, we need more buses. But if they're standing here and you can voice that opinion, that'd be great. So
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions or comments from the commissioners?
We do have a request to speak form from the public, from Joe Bruscia.
I just got a couple of comments. I got 3 minutes on this too.
And the clock is right there so you can see
Oh, there
as
we
it
go, right
counts down.
there.
And there's one right behind you.
Thank you very much. This will be short. First of all, your engagement. My God. I interviewed 30 people in the last 2 days on the bike paths. They don't know anything about this. And this on the website, Engage Merced, you got 2 or 3 comments on it. How do you find that? I found it by accident. Do any of you know how to get to it on the website? So as far as looking at your needs through that, that's not too good. I've written over 100 competitive grants, won 100. And I probably read 1,000 of them for the Department of Ed and the federal department. And I kind of know what it takes to win. And I know what you have down here is just a bare minimum. You haven't put in all the other stuff. But you got to have something unique. And Hawk is not going to win it. You've talked already about talking to kids. You got to have a component in here where you are doing something with the schools. Maybe the school newspapers, whatever, about safety. And when I look and see what the needs are in this, it brings up safety. And to win a competitive grant, you got to have something a little different, something a little better than what the other school districts, what the other cities are putting in. And just putting down bike paths and lights isn't enough, really, in my view, to win a grant unless the government's is loaded with money on that. So those are just 2 of my suggestions. It'd be nice to see if a few of you get out there on a bike path just for half an hour in the morning, and you'll get a good input what you need, and that is safety on those bike paths. And you need those kids to learn a little bit about going on your left and so on. And it'd sure be nice to get a couple of signs that are not official signs, but if you look on the handout I gave you, on the lower right-hand column is a picture of a sign that would be perfect in one portion of the bike paths, maybe between McKee and Parsons, where there are 4 curves. And things like that could help prove the safety on the bike path. So.
Okay, so now I'm going to continue on with the other items. So business, we're gonna move on to business. So we have G1.
Before we move on to G1, just a clerk's note, just a reminder, the Brown Act does prohibit action or discussion on items not on the posted agenda, including citizen communication items such as public comment. However, commissioners may request that the item be added to a future agenda and it can be discussed at that time.
Thank you, Vicki.
Okay, so for so request to add request to add items to future agenda. Commissioner Grant.
Thank you. And before Daryl leaves, one thing that I would like either next one or a future, I mean, this is an ongoing issue. You mentioned the Planning Commission for getting things done in conditions. How can we improve? Can you give us a presentation on how those conditions are communicated? For instance, bike design standards. Okay, well, let's pick bike parking for the example. How do developers know that they have to do it a certain way, whether it's basically I'm talking about commercial, and what is done if they do it wrong? So this is, I've had conversations with various city staff and city managers and so forth, and they're like, well, there's 3 kinds of this and that, and golly, and then, nothing happens. So if that could be something that we could.
My suggestion is that this commission wants to vote on that, to bring that back. We'll provide a report for you.
That's something that you could do. Okay, so my recommendation is we add to a future agenda presentation from engineering and or planning or whoever is going to be able to do it on how bicycle design standards are how we make sure that they are included in developers' requirements, and then how it's possible to make corrections if they do them wrong or don't do them at all. I have a few things. I would like to see if we can have a Measure V presentation. I'd like to know if there's if they can compile a list of bicycle and pedestrian projects for which Measure V funds were earmarked in advance and not just done as a side effect of a street project. Evidence that Measure V funds are being saved to be used for bike pedestrian projects as matching funds or complete funds. I would like to see the bicycle and pedestrian safety communications on the bike path brought as an agenda item. We actually did have this in the past and came up with some communication, so we can revisit that and go forward. Let's see. UC Merced, so we had a list of agenda items requested for future meetings that were presented in October, and having UC Merced come and talk about their, let's see what the name of that was. There's Safe Streets for All grant, their temporary all-use trail on Bellevue to G Street to the campus. That was supposed to be done last December. Brown Act training was also supposed to be done last September. The former principal planner was going to send out to the BPAC the active transportation, list of projects for active transportation that the engineering is working on, and we can let Johnny know, the planner, which projects we would like to see on the BPAC agenda. If that's something that's actually feasible to do, I mean, we're already kind of doing that with this grant. And let's see. Oh, I was chair on that meeting. I noted that Commissioner Shu had an item, and I just wrote the first 2 words down, so you're going to have to fill that in, fill in the blanks on that. And I believe that's the extent of my requests for this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Grant. Commissioner Shu?
So I don't know if it was that item that you just referenced, but I did want to add an agenda item for our next meeting to discuss goals and priorities for 2026 to 2027 for the BPAC. That would be great to figure out how we can be more effective and have an open discussion about that. Thank you.
You said 27, 28?
I said 2020 through 2027. I mean,
okay,
as a starting place.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas?
Thank you. Let's see, I wanted to circle back to the Brown Act training and the role of the BPAC. That was something that was slated to be discussed at a BPAC meeting. I did kind of want to raise the question of why we need to dedicate a meeting of this body to training that could probably be an email that's provided as a resource to the members of this body. And, we're all adults here. I think it's a reasonable expectation that, we've chosen to be here. We can accept a little bit of homework. And so.
I will definitely confer with our city attorney because I understood that they wanted to do a presentation. They do an annual presentation at Planning Commission. So maybe
see.
it's possible we can piggyback off of that. Possibly we invite all of you to that training. So I will take that into consideration and discuss that with them. Thank you.
Thank you. The other thing there is that I wanted to add to the agenda a discussion of multi-use path design standards, ideally so that going forward, we are separating out that higher speed traffic. I don't want to see a future where we're saying that people on class 3 bikes and higher speed e-scooters are being asked to join car traffic. I know from speaking with people that ride those devices that they'll just drive a car instead if they're asked to be in the car space, and that's not what we want to see happen. But we also don't want to see people getting run over on our sidewalks and multi-use paths. So I think we need to discuss some design standards there.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Watkins?
Yeah, I'd like to request that we have a standing agenda item, maybe after the consent calendar, where we follow up on previous agenda requests. We've had a lot rolling in here today, and been several from prior meetings in the fall that were requested and never appeared. And I'd like to be sure that we're closing the loop on those so that we say that either this was requested and it's on today's agenda, or we're going to have that in the parking lot and it'll be in a future meeting, or if, it's not going to be discussed and here's why. I just want to make sure that these requests are not going into a black hole.
And typically, I think those are listed as old business on agendas that I'm used to, which I don't see us have a section of. Could that be done?
So I appreciate that feedback very much so. And we will definitely be putting that on the agenda. And I appreciate your guys' patience with us because like I had mentioned at the beginning, we definitely have some staffing changes. This is my first meeting with you. And just so you know, I've been with the city 23 years. I'm not going anywhere. So I'll be happy to follow up on these things. And it might take some time, so please be patient. These are hefty issues that I think you all want to discuss. And in my mind, as I'm hearing you, I don't know if you get the Planning Commission agendas or the City Council agendas, but I intend to forward those to you from now on because it's important that you are aware of what's going on in these other commissions, because some of the items that you're mentioning, specifically the Brown Act and the multi-use pathway design, I understood from Daryl's comment that that's going to be coming to City Council here in the next couple of meetings. And so that would be important for you to participate at that time, maybe not something specific that we need to cover here because it's already being covered at that level. So I intend to make sure that you're invited to these things in the future.
That'd be great, thank you.
Also, just to throw out there, Subscribe Merced is a way to get the Planning Commission agendas in your email box too. So anybody can subscribe to that. It's on the city website.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins, and thank you, Clerk Blackshear. Is that how I refer to you? Sorry.
Oh, anything's fine.
Okay. And then Commissioner Chambers?
Yes, I would like to see for a request for future agenda items, specifically data upon the city of Merced when it comes to fatalities and casualties for pedestrians and bicyclists. whether it is in intersections or on the bike path, that we have information about that data. In addition to how can we have more commission meetings. I know that other commissions have a meeting every month while we have it every other month. So that's just something that I would like to kind of get some clarification on how we can go about that, because it seems as though it kind of gets lost when we are just meeting every other month or we get a cancellation, that there seems to be a larger gap. And that's all.
Commissioner Grant? Oh, I apologize.
Actually, I hit that early. I'm thinking about the comment time. Sorry about
Okay,
that, yeah.
no worries. Commissioner, and then Commissioner Shoes, okay. I would like to add, I would like to propose to change the time to 6 o'clock to mimic city council so that more people could be in attendance at our meeting through the community, so that we could be able to be more inclusive with hearing the voices from the community. Are there any other questions or comments from the commission? Oh, Commissioner Shu.
I did also want to add, I don't know if it'll get brought up when we talk about goals and priorities, but I do want to add Mr. Bruce's topic, which is whether it's educational campaign or something that's, I think, or safety on the bike paths or multi-use paths, trying to figure out what our role is, or if we want to have a role in getting information out there to make the bike paths safer. I think it's worth discussing.
Thank you, Commissioner Shu. Commissioner Harmlin?
Hi, yes. In addition to Commissioner Chambers' request for data on collisions between vehicles and pedestrians and cyclists, if there are any data on collisions between, say, cyclists or scooters and pedestrians, especially when reports are filed. In addition, I would also add if any data are available also from the UC.
Thank you. That's great, because their data is actually kept separate in all of their incidents. And they have their own police department separate from our police department. So thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Martinez?
Yes, thank you. So I know a lot of us are interested in the data, and if I could piggyback off that data and also add, and maybe we can have someone either from law enforcement or fire just provide a quick report of things they're seeing, right? Because they respond to these incidents, just to let us know if there's a scope. Because I know our BPAC purview might be limited to other commissions, but just whatever falls within BPAC, just curious to know what they're seeing when they're responding, or how these incidents get managed. Because I know investigations are probably like private to what they can entail, but there's any general information that could be helpful for us. And I guess the other one is, I know when we have the meeting, I know for BPAC, we're focused on bicycle, pedestrian, and advisory commission, right? We're advising city council to our respect, to our knowledge on how these things go. But if that can be part of it, just because I want to know, we have great commissioners here and we have this knowledge, but I know when the engineer, he was here, he was saying that a lot of things had to be done through city council. So I guess I want to know what our commission role is and what needs to be done through city council, right? Like, okay, as a commissioner, you want to know this. Okay, now you have to do this, so city council sees it. You have to pass it on the agenda. Now this will get to city council, and then they vote on it, right? Because I just want to know how that works, so that way we can be more effective. Because again, we have a lot of commissioners here, and I heard great ideas are gonna go on, and all these agenda items. And I know to an extent, maybe they go to city council, or to an extent they get voted on. But I just want to know the depth of our advisory commission. And I know it was also mentioned the moving the meetings. So yeah, I would also be interested in that, moving the meetings, either monthly or whatever. Most likely it had to be a city council action as well, but just seeing how we can be more effective for our community. And then one more was, I know I've been walking a lot through my community, and I know I report stuff sometimes on the app, right? Like if something is, like if there's a sidewalk that's broken, you take a picture and you report it. But I know the city has tried to do outreach here and there, but if there's a better way to do that, or we can look into that, either a campaign or something like, hey, you're walking your dog, take a picture if you see a broken sidewalk or a leaky sprinkler on the road. I know I've been doing that, and I don't know how many people are doing that. I do know I put a request for some pothole, and it took like 2 months for it to be looked at, right? But I'm just curious to know if there's anything that us as BPAC can do on that, and that'll be it. Thank you.
I think that's great, and that's something also that I had talked about earlier, campaigning. What I would like to know how we as BPAC can campaign and help with the city, or a request of the city that there be campaigns through social media or whatever other avenues and pathways. And then also our collaborators and agencies within the community, what BPAC can do to ask for promoting those pathways, like you talked about reporting hazards, and then also coming to our meetings. And I would like to see on the city social media a lot more BPAC awareness and invitations. Like I'd like to see a whole campaign drawn around, a social media campaign around how the city is going to help promote the BPAC Commission, and educating the citizens on how they work with us, and then we work with city council, so they understand that funnel pipeline, because to my understanding, that's what it's supposed to be. People come here, they speak to us, then we speak with city council, is my understanding. And if that needs to be corrected, then I would love education on that. And then also I would like to invite Merced City School Districts, MCOE, CHP, Merced Police Department, the Planning and Engineering Committee, the Downtown Neighborhood Association, and the UC Merced, all to give us presentations, and to reoccurringly at every single meeting. I would actually like to see them, because they are continuously involved in projects within our community. And so I would like them to just have a standing invitation to come, and then any and all things that they're working on, for them to bring that information to us in a timely manner. For example, like the information that someone just requested for how electric scooters and those type of higher speed vehicles are being utilized with pedestrians. You know, like I have been at CSUS Interlock, and then also the UC quite a bit as of late, and they have different ways that they are going about educating the students, and those because they have a community that goes and walks on their gosh, the word is blanking, but they go and they interact, and so they have signage and different things that they are trying to use to initiate already there. And so hearing what they're seeing, what they're implementing, I think on a regular basis would be great, because they're evolving in real time with us, with a lot of our now citizens, because they just got annexed. So now those are all of our District 6 citizens, and I'd love to make sure that their police department, whether they need to have a police department representative and a separate UC department that talks about, you know, like grants and things, but I'd like to hear from them regularly. And are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? This was still, that was to end a request to add items to the future agenda. Sorry. Bear with me, you guys. It takes me a little bit to learn, but after I learn, I'm golden. And Commissioner Grant left big shoes to fill. So now we're moving on to item G3. Commissioner comments? And this is where we can respond. I believe we had previously stated we can respond to things that were presented to us today, correct?
No, that's why Vicki made the comment about the Brown Act and the things that we are able to or not able to say. Oops, okay.
So what types of comments are we able to make, just so that
Your
maybe
own,
we can
your
help?
own comments about.
Basically, the agenda spells out what comments. It's about an opportunity to make a brief announcement on any activities they've attended on behalf of the city or on future community events, activities that relate to active transportation. So the Brown Act does not allow discussion or action under this section.
Okay, do any commissioners have any comments about activities that they have attended? Or future opportunities that they would like to share?
I just want to point out, I didn't click the request to speak.
Oh, I apologize, sorry. Go ahead, apologize.
That was Lisa.
That was,
Staff one would be Curtis.
sorry, go ahead. Commissioner Thompson.
Thomas, thank you so much.
Thomas, thank you. I apologize. I'm trying to look up the meetings that Commissioner Watkins and I went to.
All good. Okay, so let's see. I will say some of the activities that I've engaged in since previous meeting. I reached out to the police department to see about engaging with them to get a little bit more educational outreach regarding how our multi-use paths are used, and how to try and get a little bit more responsible usage from people who are using bicycles and e-scooters and e-bikes on those multi-use paths, try and prevent some accidents from happening. I also have gotten out and ridden some of our bike trails. I gotta say, I recently took the Farrens Creek Trail recently for the first time, and I was very, very impressed with it, very taken with it. And I've also reached out to the engineering department here at the city to see if we can if I could convince some of the engineers to come on a ride along with me on some of our bike lanes throughout the city. And I received a positive response there, so I'm excited to get the ball rolling on that.
Could I request that any of those kinds of things be extended to the rest of the commission when they're set up? Because I know I would love to join and attend, and I'm sure there are quite a few other commissioners that would as well.
I don't have everyone's personal emails. Leah, would it be possible to communicate that through you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Grant?
Thank you. Okay, so the Merced Bicycle Coalition meets the first Saturday of the month, usually. Look at Facebook or the website for changes, because that does happen sometimes. Noon at Coffee Bandits, immediately following a ride, which the entire public is also invited to. 10 o'clock meeting at the Applegate Park, Kittyland Park. Yeah, so we meet there and have a ride, go to Coffee Bandits, enjoy some food and drink, and we have our meeting. It's public, and we can all attend without worrying about the Brown Act violations, because it is a publicly announced, publicly available meeting, and not only that, it's also in a public place. So, please feel free to come, and we can continue conversations. The Bicycle Coalition is not doing a mayor's bike ride this year. We are looking into other ideas for other kinds of community bicycling events. So you may have ideas for that as well. So please come and share. I guess this is a comment. It kind of goes back to these agenda items. I did actually request that Mr. Ruscia's agenda or comment concern be placed on this agenda, and there was some kind of question as to whether that could happen or not. I would just like to point out that in the past, all the way through Bill King's term and Michael Wren, the chairperson was provided a draft agenda a week or so in advance of the meeting, and with the idea to give more suggestions for what to include, and those were actually placed on the agenda. Tossing that out in case that affects the future.
We did speak to the city clerk about that.
Okay.
So the only way that commissioners can get items on the agenda is right here at the public meeting, so everyone can hear and see it, and it happens on the agenda item G1. So
Okay.
doing it beforehand via email or something was not the way to do it. Sorry,
Okay.
it was done in the past, but going forward, we're trying to adhere to the Brown Act as much as possible and also follow the example that City Council sets for us.
Yeah, and I thought that the city council, and maybe this is also in the past and a changed practice as well, but there would be items that they would have on the agenda that were brought to them by mail or email or communication from the public, and they were directly placed on the agenda. So I was thinking that that would be just a continuation of an existing practice, but that's, okay, perhaps past, but no more. And then as far as events goes, I'm going to consider it an event that I may be required to leave the commission 1 year earlier than anticipated. And so this might affect some of you as well. When I was reappointed in 2023, instead of being to my fourth four-year term as I expected, I've recently learned that I was assigned to finish out someone else's partial term, and which ends in 2026. I don't appreciate that. I was caught by surprise. In spite of the fact that, yes, the attendance reports would kind of list terms, I never did the math until it came out that, no, I should be able to have 1 more year. So I will be looking to see if there's a remedy to that, and you might, others of you who are discovering that you're terming out or have to reapply might look into that as well. And in particular, if this is treated, and they said it would be, more than half of a partial term is considered a full term, and you can do 2 terms in a row, 2 4-year terms, then you have to take a 2-year break. My last 2-year break was 2017 to 2019, and that would put me off. The silver lining to that is I would be able to communicate with any and all commissioners without any Brown Act considerations, but I wouldn't be able to be up here. So something you all might want to look into. And that was that.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Maybe, Commissioner Watkins?
Yeah, two events I wanted to call out. One is that the event that Commissioner Mraz and I attended a week or 2 ago is part of the UC Merced Professional and Continuing Education Placemaker Lab series. It's a very interesting series of events. They're bringing in a lot of companies that are, and consultants and experts that are pretty interesting if you're interested in kind of place-based development as kind of their buzzword. But you can look those up at opportunitymerced.org. There's one I think in October. These is like kind of a monthly thing. That the October one is specifically focused on connectivity and is like most directly relevant to this body. But would encourage looking those up. And then also more imminently, the Strong Towns Merced group is holding a Jane Jacobs Day walk. I've also heard these called like a walk audit, or basically a group of community members meets up and just walks around town and takes note of things that are good and things that they'd like to see changed. I think they've done one of these already. Maybe some of the other commissioners attended, but specifically the upcoming one is Monday, May 4th at 6 p.m. meeting at the Transit Center on O Street and 16th. I can't make that in particular one, but hope others here will. Thanks.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, because I know previously I mentioned the Merced Connect app. So this activity I'm doing, going around the district I'm in and reporting stuff. But some of the things you can report, right, are like bike lane path issues, report street racing, speeding, red light, stop sign violations, sidewalks, uneven or blocked, street light issue, traffic sign or median reflectors are some of the things. There's other things that are also there, but I know I've been doing that as I'm walking as an activity for my area, just highlighting those, just trying to make sure that, don't know how fast they'll get attended to, but I think that's something that I've been trying to do, just because sometimes I know it has happened where we're like, oh, maybe someone will notice or the city will notice, but if no one reports those, maybe it never gets fixed. But at least it gives me pleasure knowing that it eventually gets looked at, and either that pothole got fixed, or now people can walk better, or there's no path. Like I know some paths have been taken. There have been like overgrown vegetation onto the sidewalk, or there has been like, I was heard like people not using the pathways correctly. So just an activity I've been doing. Just wanted to say that if any of us want to take that on, right, as in a row, just download the app, walk around, and just take pictures or anything regarding and use the Merced Connect app. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. So I'd like to piggyback off of Commissioner Watkins. So the UC, you can find the information for those community classes. They are free to the public. They're on Instagram at UC Merced PACE, PACE. They're going to have community idea exchanges, all-day immersions. So the month of April is Placemaking 101, What Makes Great Places Work. June is Building the Welcome Economy, Placemaking Through Food and Hospitality. September is Shaping Place, Development, Design, and the Built Environment. November is Placemaking Together, Leadership, Trust, and Community Impact. And the very next community session is Wednesday, April 15th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. I'm sorry, that was the one that we went to. It was on Designing Communities That Thrive. The next one is Thursday, May 7th, 5:30 to 7, From Vision to Viable, Making Place-Based Development Pencil. So they have a whole list, and I will I'll reach out to the city to see if maybe they can like cross-share the UC's post so that those can be being promoted. There can be that cross-collaboration. There's more of one place for the citizens to be looking at. Commissioner Thomas?
This was an item that got away from me a little bit earlier. I did want to mention also that I am the representative of the Bicycle Commission on the CAFG, where we're setting the general plan for the next 15 years. Our next meeting is, our very next meeting's going to be May 18th at 5 p.m., where it's a joint study session. No, excuse me, that's not us, but that's the Planning Commission and the City Council having a joint study session on the existing conditions and trends, where it documents the city as it is. If you guys have something that you think possibly has been missed and needs to be looked at, that would be a session for you guys to go and raise that. And then May 27th at 6 p.m. is the next CAFG meeting, where we're going to be discussing the vision statement. Additionally, correct me if I'm wrong, Leah, I think that's also where we're going to be hearing from the consultants as to what the results of the survey were.
I believe so.
Yeah, so we've had a survey going on for the last 2 or 3 months now, hoping to hear from the citizens about, hoping to hear from the public about what they think they like about the city, what they want to see change, stuff like that. And the consultants are compiling the results of that survey and presenting those results there as well. So unfortunately, the survey is closed now.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. And question, what are the locations for the May 18th and the May 27th meeting?
I have to interject. I was just requested to reschedule. So that was literally before I walked in the door here today for May 18th. But the May 28th, the CAFG meets at 6 p.m. in the chambers here.
It's May 28th or May 27th? Sorry, I believe I wrote May 27th when he said it.
I'm looking at the email that was sent to me, and it says May 27th.
Okay. There we go. Then I sent that, I would imagine. So I'll go with what's in writing because
yeah,
I'll trust that.
working memory. So 5/28, May 28th at 6 p.m.
Yes,
And it's here.
yes.
Okay. And then the May 18th location for the Planning Commission meeting?
May 18th is a city council meeting. However,
city
I was
council.
just asked before this meeting to reschedule the joint study session.
So then we'll have to wait to hear. Where will you be posting that, on the IG and city?
So what we do on that one, that's a joint study session of City Council and Planning Commission, so it's part of the City Council agenda or the Planning Commission agenda if it ends up being rescheduled for the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Okay. And then are there any other comments from, or questions from the commissioners? Okay, and then yes, thank you.
Thank you. I had a request to speak. So a couple things I just wanted to ask. When we send out the BPAC agendas, and I know sometimes our clerk will ask for a head count on who's able to attend. Do you guys get read receipts? Is that something, does anybody not get a read receipt? I know that for Outlook, we have the option, a read receipt. If you don't know what it is, that means no.
I
And so
think it's
that's
an
fine.
Outlook thing.
Yeah.
And most of us use like Gmail and Yahoo, I've noticed. So I think that's an Outlook only thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing confusion. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that, so we don't need to ask for those in the future because you don't have them, so that's fine. That's a city thing, no worries. And then I wanted to also, so what I intend to do is kind of write up all of these interesting topics, and some of them I know we've had guest speakers lined up, and unfortunately, we do have to have a quorum of the 7 of you to be able to have that, so we've had to cancel several because we didn't have a quorum. And so unfortunately, some of those speakers that we had lined up were for those meetings that had to be canceled. I do know that. And then also, I just received a note from the clerk that regarding the work items, commissioners do have to, they are expected to do work on all of the items that they are suggesting to add. So you can coordinate with me on that. And I believe my email address was included in your last agenda because I would ultimately have to get the item on the agenda. So we'll coordinate on that. If you have a guest speaker that you'd like to line up, let me know. We'll try to work that into the schedule. But I'm also going to be coordinating with all of you. So, we can't do them all at the same time, but we'll do our best to get through them all in a timely fashion. And we'll follow up on these as we go, like had been requested. I think the number one thing that I would like to do as I listen to all of you is look at the roles and responsibilities and make sure that we're all on the right path, going in the right direction together. And I wanted to bring up that on the May 18th City Council meeting, there will be a proclamation for Bicycle Safety Month, and you are invited to come and receive that. Commissioner Mraz has indicated that she will be attending to receive it, and we'd love to welcome all of you as well. So,
Which will now be rescheduled, correct?
correct. It is on the agenda, and when you get that, it will be there.
So just because my calendar is chaotic, I had said I would be there when I knew the date and time. So now I will still try to be there, but
Okay.
I have to wait till I get the
Cool.
new date and time. Sorry.
No worries, that's okay. And that's, City Council always is the first and third Mondays of the month. So sometimes it's not the first, right? Most of the time it's not the first. So just look on the calendar. It's always the first Monday, unless there's a holiday on a Monday, and then it would be the Tuesday after that. And then just kind of FYI, the Planning Commission meets the Wednesdays following City Council Mondays or Tuesdays. So if it's a holiday and council meets on a Tuesday, Planning Commission would meet on a Wednesday. And sometimes we don't have items, and sometimes those meetings get canceled also. But in all my years, I've yet to see a council meeting canceled, even during COVID.
Are you saying that the May 18th meeting of the city council is going to be rescheduled?
No, the part that was asked of me to reschedule was the joint study session that Curtis brought up. So there will be a council meeting.
And there will be the proclamation for
And there
Bike
will
Month.
be the proclamation for May being Bicycle Safety Month. It just, the study session that he mentioned will not
Okay, and I
most
think it's
likely
just
happen.
bike month, right? Because that'll.
I
National
understand
Bike
it was National Bike Safety Month, and so that's what the proclamation is for.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
There was actually a few wonderful bicycle things related in the month of May, but they were before the meeting, so.
Well, yeah, because I think we were talking about it way back in October in that time. And I just haven't heard anything from it. But it's beautiful. So I will be there then. Sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Grant, for pointing that out because I was not grasping that. Thank you.
Sure.
So I will be there. And I would love to see as many of the commissioners as possible. Okay, and then I'm going to move to adjournment. So item AH, adjournment, but we will need a motion. So do I have a motion?
So moved to adjourn?
Commissioner Grant moves to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner, oh, I'm so sorry. Ewan, sorry. Commissioner Ewan seconds that motion. We have, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes.